The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening, Uganda. Welcome to the program. This is the Hotline show happening every Monday. We start at 7 to 9 p.m. We're always having a conversation with you, touching based on what is happening in the country and trying to highlight some of the challenges that we face. But we do not just highlight these challenges to ridicule or scorn at anybody or any group of persons. We are trying to, foster conversations that are going to bring in solutions that are going to make Uganda a better place. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Today we saw some protesters, female in nature, not wearing anything, trying to protest against the corruption that is happening in the country. 3 of them have been arrested by the police force as we speak. And of course, the charge that has been put on them is common nuisance or being a nuisance. I don't know how that is legally binding, but that is what really transpired today. A lot of things have been happening over time. We've not been here for 2 weeks. But we are going to try to touch base on a few issues here and there, and of course highlighting some of the insights that these gentlemen have for you. And of course every Monday, I'm proud to be joined by 3 candid gentlemen. I'll start with Charles Kazova. He is the Executive Director for the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies. Then I have Honorable Cheno Joseph from the mighty UPC, or from Uganda People's Congress. In fact, he doesn't call it mighty, he calls it UPC. Now, I have...
The grand old party, the mighty Uganda People's Congress.
On this
mighty
show...
is reserved.
Yes, exactly. On this show, the mighty is reserved for Honorable Retired Major Paula Wich, from what he calls the mighty National Resistance Movement. I'm going to first...
And sometimes he calls it the mass party, which is basically...
Major belongs to NRA, not NRM. There's a huge difference.
The major is keeping quiet. But let me in fact start with the major. Sir, you're welcome. It's always a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank you.
The opening remarks for the people.
My opening remarks is, of course, I'm glad to be here. I bring greetings from the Mass Party, the mighty Mass Party. You can join them. At some appropriate time, I will explain the mass component. People need to understand why it is mass. I'll explain later. But greetings, we have missed here for 2 weeks, as you said. Our being here is a testament that as Uganda we need to talk, we need to air our views, we have to share conversations. These conversations, you never know, can coalesce or contribute to critical mass views and give proposals. So I'm happy to be here, and that is the position that we take in line with the constitutional provisions and we expect therefore that when we are sitting here, some people are sitting somewhere and they are also discussing and talking.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I will come to Charles Kazova, who is the Executive Director for the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies. You're welcome, sir. Your opening remarks.
Thank you. Just as the show was beginning, you might have realized I was chatting with my senior, Major Wich, about diplomacy. And I need to extend that conversation into the show because in the last few weeks, we've had about 2 scandals in the our foreign affairs, regarding Ambassador Acheng of Canada and former UPC man, but you know, he's very friendly to him.
Both were UPC.
Hey.
Yeah.
And I'm told they come from the same village also. Yeah.
Which one?
Both, the Tacheng and the Maega.
No.
Not accurate.
My guy is from Nakasongola, he's a Muru.
Hey.
And my guy is from Nakasongola.
Okay. Now.
Maybe there was another incident in USA involving a diplomat, and that one, they are from the same village. You may not be very wrong, but there had been an earlier diplomat involved in the same Semitic concern.
Yes, yes.
And then, so those are the two.
Now,
But they are from, the two are from, but that one had happened a little earlier. So that gives you 3, if you want, of similar set of facts.
So last week, we were having a big chat on what is happening in the diplomatic world, in the circles of academia. And the issues are that, for instance, the NRM government has deliberately refused to put in place foreign policy. Number 2, the NRM government continues to ignore professional diplomats for deployment in favor
Did you
of,
say you are going to put it in your debate, or you want to put it in your
I'm putting these issues in favor of cadres. Hence the embarrassment these people are causing this country. And we have realized that by not having the 2 in place, deploying professional diplomats or career diplomats and having a clear foreign policy in place, that's why even the country stagnates most times. You find Ruabogo, member of First Family, running around looking for investors without clear mandate. You find somebody else playing a role of foreign affairs, yet that person has no clear designation. Now, we are in a chaotic situation, which I hope you people can resolve. And considering that you were in diplomacy for some time, I hope you share my concerns.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Honorable Ochieng, an honor to have you on the show, sir.
Yes, thank you. It has been a difficult last few weeks for this country. I don't know the circumstances because it's not within my mandate to explain the circumstances under which we missed you for the last 2 weeks. The three of us, but I can say particularly the two of us, myself and Comrade Wich, who've been around here for quite some time, we feel that we gave a reasonable face to this place, and we started thinking that by default, every other Monday evening will find us this end of town, to the extent that sometimes some Monday afternoons we are revealing, we arrange some of our commitments and meetings to lead us towards this, particularly because of the messy manner of infrastructure and transportation and traffic in Kampala. So when we miss you, when we miss here for 2 weeks, we generally miss you guys. But more importantly, the tragic Kitezi, in which over 30 Ugandans officially are dead, could be 50 plus, and the total number may never be known. I asked in other networks why we've not had a day of national mourning, and so that is sad, and shamefully that it happens around a matter that should be a business opportunity in terms of waste management globally, particularly considering that I am putting on a T-shirt, which is very smart. I thank you guys for having welcomed me with a clap in the studio. That was very smart. But it was not my intention to do so because simply I had no power in my place once again, so I couldn't iron my last shirt. I've got this habit. I can't over-defend myself, and it's basically my habit because I expect electricity to be there. So I iron as I move on, and I'm not privileged enough to hire people to iron for me. You know, so
how will UPC handle government business if
under UPC administration such a thing would not arise? Certainly not UPC after 40 years. And in any case, I think I've ever told this program that the time I decided to reject Museveni in 1980, one of the reasons was the manner in which he tried to convince us then as students by demonstrating that if he came to power, one of the things that he would turn into energy was cow dung. And so his argument about cow dung at the time was that it was wastage and it was a source of energy and manure. And then the nasty thing was that he sought to show us where cow dung comes from. And I don't want to demonstrate it here. And Bosogo College Mwiri students thought that, well, even Mwiri primary school kids, meaning nursery kids, know where these things come and they shouldn't demonstrate it. Now, isn't it ironical that 45 years later, 46 nearly, this guy has got the incapacity to guarantee us energy based on solar and everything else, and now Kitezi happens and is not able to be translated into that.
To interrupt you.
Yes.
You're looking at the downside, but as we're speaking, the electricity coverage in this country is literally at 80%.
I don't know what economics you study, that because the coverage is 80%, so therefore the sustainability should be, at 40%. In any case, I have friends, including the other day, people who tell you that it's basically sheer luck. This end of Kampala of yours, for them to not have power cuts in between 3 times in a day.
And some of them can be over-exaggerating or lying.
Whatever the case, I am not exaggerating anyway. And whatever the case, there is no reason. By the way, I worked in the local government, and I'm going to challenge KCCA and others also about Kitezi, because it's not all about NRA regime, but also the people who manage the local authorities. And in this case, it is also the responsibility of my good friend, Lukwago et al. Although the other day I was on a major media program on Saturday, and the executive director of KCCA pulled out, meaning decided not to attend, which I thought was actually an insult to the citizens, instead of coming to account for the people. So, no, the fact that you have got an electricity pole does not mean you should not complain when the things are not connecting. You know, as I said, I worked in local governments in which if there is a power cut involving one property, that's an emergency. One property, you know, maybe a fuse, it breaks. But if it's power cut involving a small block of property flats, that is a major emergency. And if it's a power cut that involves an estate, all senior executives of that local authority would be there. And it would not take over a day. And in any case, people will be compensated, there will be explanations, and there will be an apology. That's what happens. That's what would happen under UPC government. And 40 years after NRA, it's completely unacceptable. But anyway, so Kitezi is that. Unfortunately, I'm just, sorry. Unfortunately, also, within the last few weeks, I told you that I had an accident in which I pushed my car over things for which the public authorities were not doing the right thing. Last night, I had a tire burst from exactly that. And my mechanics warned me that it might happen. It did happen last night. It happens at an event in which there was a senior government officials, friends of mine I will not mention, you know, who were in attendance, I think a comrade which has an idea. And there was one of these people enjoying my Sunday, and towards the end of it, I'm parking to go home. The mistress of the household was even giving my other gifts, my mini takeaway to go and enjoy before I go to bed. And tire burst. Completely linked to this. It's a public safety issue, but it's also a messy thing of the element of this state. So it's very, very sad. And so if I will conclude this, we're going to be discussing the fact in which these things need Parliament to go and sit in Chikitezi to be able to sort out this mess. Then God save this country.
Before we leave that issue of the Kitezi,
there's a point.
To him. Just a minute, you're going to raise
it is on the issue that he raised.
Yeah, you're going to raise it in your time. Honorable Which, I'm just requesting that you also comment on this issue of Kitezi. Because Mr. President is responsible directly for Kampala as we speak today. He was the executive director, and the problem of the Kitezi has been known. Even at the beginning of this year, the Lord Mayor flagged the issue of Kitezi, and everybody saw this issue. But as we speak, more than 30 people lost their lives. What do you think about what happened in Kitezi?
Of course, what happened is bad. Even if it was only one Ugandan who died, even if it was one Ugandan who died, but it's bad. You shouldn't lose a single life. Therefore, losing 30 is very bad. The president is in charge of Kampala, minister for this, but we still have a minister for Kampala.
Under the president? Yeah,
the president doesn't touch it is not hands-on. He has a minister, as the KCCA, and the executive director. The only way to handle government and executive liable in this case are institutional frameworks. The legal provisions that government provides, the institutional framework, some of which we have mentioned, and the financing. And now, if this is inadequate, because these are the institutional framework by which the president should come in, not physically going to supervise that.
Are they inadequate?
Yes, and that's what I'm saying we should examine, me and you. Government would argue that the resource envelopes makes us do so far what we have done, the little that we have provided. But another school of thought would say, no, you should have put it a priority. So now that I'm not in possession of the resource provisions, that I can say, hey guys, the budget reads this, the KCCA requisition for this, and they were given. It therefore ties my hand not to submit authoritatively. But under normal circumstances, I'd say, or I want to say, that this tragedy, somebody should have been held liable.
That's where I was coming.
Somebody should have been even a mere reprimand, if not reprimand, an interdiction, if not an interdiction, or even a harsher penalty.
Yeah.
So unless there was going to be a confession, or believe that yes, we concede the fault is ours. But otherwise, if institutional framework are in place, the laws, the officers, the ministers, the KCCA, whatever, and finance given, then who is that who did not perform his work? Or even more so, who is that? Because not only we holding people for their actions, but even their inactions, their omissions.
Yeah.
For example, if you omitted to present the budget, if you omitted to request for that money, that omission is so grave, like an omission, like a commission itself. It's such a grave omission that would amount to a commission itself. Therefore, I'm insufficiently resourced with the areas of budget constraints or availability of it. And therefore, as I said earlier, it impedes my ability to submit on this
But do you respect Ugandans as the ruling government? Because this has been a pattern over time. You don't apologize when some of these things happen. Nobody is really booked. I can start with Kitezi. I can talk about the protests of 2020, the people who were murdered then. We can talk about the people who have bought fake helicopters in the past. All these things, it feels like we just hide them under the carpet. Are you really accountable to Ugandans?
The major questions is, are you accountable? Do you apologize? Or, as you said, yeah, it is. We value Ugandans. And I actually will dare...
He's laughing sarcastically.
Yeah, I will dare tell you, I had promised I would talk about the mass. That mass aspect shows you how much we value Uganda. For example, the mass aspect we're talking about, we're talking of immunization generally. We are talking of UPE generally.
You sound predictable.
We are talking USC. I sound predictable because these are things we have implemented. Because these are things, I sound predictable.
It's like that's the only thing that you can offer.
So I would rather than suspect me, you would rather predict me, because these are transparency issues we do openly. So you predict.
To what extent shall we stop?
But I'm still answering your question.
Shall we stop?
I'm still answering your question. So
like
I am saying the mere fact that we do things at a mass level than isolated beneficiaries is that it shows you how much we value the people. But your question was, I think I've answered how we value, but about the apology, sometimes it is a methods of work. We take time to make inquiry and ascertain the facts. So it may not come instantly, and you may think we have left it. For example, the killing of the two, the Honorable Minister of Defense, some of Labor, Kyagulanyi, and this other sports person, they were killed some times back. But the president...
You're saying zebra.
Yes, so the president had to take time to follow on this matter, so that when he pronounces himself with certainty. Now, that speaks directly to your apology. The families were called in State House, and proper apology was tendered, because the president tendered in since the forces involved were under the commander-in-chief. He did it so. Do you still doubt that we don't apologize? I repeat, it may be the methods of work that we don't rush into these things. We take time to study, to ascertain, so that we have a very concrete approach to it. So when it deserves an apology, we do. Recently, 2 apologies are made.
Yes,
that is clear. So you should remove it from your mind that we don't care, we don't apologize, we do. And recent 2 cases are clear and live.
All right, thank you so much. That's Honorable Paula Awich from the mighty NRM. You had something to compliment on the issue of Kitezi.
No, not Kitezi. Kitezi is shared responsibility. I don't want to entirely shift the blame onto government. It is shared responsibility.
Okay, but do our leaders know what is happening on ground? I heard the president say
before you even
even people stayed in
before you even focus on the leader, you as a citizen, what comes to your mind when you are living near such heap of garbage? You don't have to wait for M7 to tell you that it's dangerous, it's risky. There has been a disaster ongoing.
So that's the shift slightly towards the people?
the pollution there itself.
Why were they not evicted?
So before
So
you
you
even...
believe someone
you're saying-
would leave all the areas in Kampala
The
to
moment-
go their own choice? That's the
The,
best place
the
they'd like to
assumption
live under.
is the moment you make 18 years, you must be able to make right choices. So before you even focus on your MP, your councillor, your president, your government,
It was wrong for them to leave there.
you as an individual. I'm saying this because I know what happens to most of these ghetto areas.
happens in Kitale?
There's a lot of irresponsibility when it comes to citizens. And really, it's sad that we always have to wait for leaders. Your place is dirty. Let me tell you, when it rains, do you know what happens? People pull out their garbage in the bags,
Yes, and they
throw it
in trenches.
Why would you do that? Do you have to wait for a leader to tell you that that is bad? And it is going to cause you sickness? It's time to own up as citizens. Even the Constitution says that.
So the citizens were to blame.
Number
for
one,
dying.
blame yourself as a citizen. Number one, blame yourself before you even rush to blame your leader. You yourself as a citizen.
Okay. After
Because these things, we must share responsibility. We must. Anyway, that is besides the issue I wanted to raise about infrastructure. Joseph has complained about electricity, and it is a conversation that has been ongoing for some time. Several years ago, when I was a kid, and I've lived in so many places, you know, in the western part of the country. So I witnessed the state of infrastructure firsthand, the bad roads that you could, for instance, board a bus and it takes you a whole day for around 150 kilometers. You have to go in the night, sleep in the bus, and then you arrive in the evening because of the state of infrastructure. Electricity was like a miracle. It would just appear a few hours and disappear. I read using candles. Not under UPC government, under this government. Today, if electricity goes off for an hour or two, we complain. Why? Because we are getting used to better infrastructure. There was a number of years when this government committed a lot of resources, trillions of money, to specifically infrastructure, energy, and roads.
Yes.
And so many other ministries were staffed. However, I think with time, I think the NRM government is deciding to invest in other areas, and they have shifted away from infrastructure. So it is not true.
Just to add on that, I was reading somewhere yesterday, and they confirmed that Uganda is one of those African countries with the best roads in the rural areas, or tarmac
Yes,
roads in
yes.
the rural areas.
And the justification for that, if I remember correctly, was to open up the country for production.
Yeah, from border to border.
Yes.
Yes.
However, my concern would really be in Kampala. The infrastructure in Kampala has broken down. And I don't know whether it is the leadership at KCCA that is problematic. And if that is the case, we could I don't even know why we still have cases here. Because if we can't have services in Kampala, if we cannot have safe water for drinking, if we can't move on good roads, there is a road that connects Natete to Entebbe through Nakauka, then Kauku. It's just 28 kilometers. That road, if tarmacked, it can connect to even Mpiji, and it reduces traffic. But you see the work being done. It is very slow. Just here in town today morning, somebody was complaining for 2 weeks, just a Rubaga here. People are not moving, they're just on one place, bringing tractors, making confusion with traffic. Now, the problem could be also with Kampala.
Okay.
So I don't know whether it is because major Kampala people did not vote for you, or... And
it's on record that the leader has said that some of you...
You want me to say something?
Thank you so much. 37 minutes past the top of the hour of 7. Let me come to you, Honorable Cheno. And I just wanted us to talk about the message that US gave us, that there are some impending security attacks from the Al-Shabaab. But I know there is something you want to comment on this issue, because the panel here, including myself, seem to agree that the NRM has done something. It's you trying to downplay the achievements.
You guys are shocking. You're amazingly shocking. On the basis of the tone in which we start, you're genuinely amazing. But look, Charles, I'm surprised that you take the view that it's the responsibility of citizens, and as a result of their failures, sort of Chiteze happened.
I know you got me wrong.
You may not have meant that.
You got me wrong.
You may not have meant that,
Yes.
but your observations were rather sweeping. In any case, actually, it confirms what NRM came with from the bush, that we don't have a state, so we're living life in anarchy. And in any case, it's basically part of the things that Mr. M7 did with our economy. And that is basically to privatize life and everything else. This is civics. I hope you guys went to school when civics was still there. You know, the role of government, it's a basic, obvious things. That it's the role of government to ensure that systems do work. And in any case, that's one of the reasons why we have religions. That's one of the reasons why we have the police. That's one of the reasons why some of you guys these days have got very irritating fences around Kampala. That's one of the reasons why these days you guys are causing huge amount of pollution. I don't know why maybe people steal too much money, and these days everybody has got a dog. You know, I think in my neighborhood, some dogs have arrived, you know, to check thieves, and they make noise the whole of the night. It's obvious common sense. People do these things. No. Governments do exist, you know, to provide security, to provide protection. Governments are parents in nation states. You know, that's why, yes, governments regulate. And I was telling you guys, I don't want to go too much into it, that I've been a senior, in fact, a principal local government officer in a major established nation state. In any case, Nagongara was a town board when I was going to primary school, merely town board. Nagongara town board had tarmac. Nagongara town board had a post office. Nagongara town board had an organized town spaces. It had an infrastructure. When you do map reading that I normally tell you programs here, you will know that this is a church, that's a mosque, that's a school, that's a railway, that's a road, those are people's gardens. Ofono Pondo's dad, you know, Ofono Pondo of these days of NRM, his dad was the most well-known Sousa chief in our sub-region. And one of the reasons was that he used to push the issue about Bulungi Bugwenzi, you know, the road maintenance thing, community work. But one of the things, government, making sure that if you don't have pit latrines or toilets, you know, you're checked. And that's seasonally, government, you know, it might be like a mini, communist country push for. But no, those are roles of government. Where are you? Where's your millet? Where's your cassava? Where's your cotton? Okay. The most conservative established authorities, like the Trumps of this world, and I ever lived also under conservative government in Britain, they would say that while there is welfare state, they're asking people why are you not going to work? Role of government, and indeed, when there's a power cut, they check who is it. Was it somebody's negligence? And if you held negligence, you'll pay for it. That's what governments do. But the quick thing then on this infrastructure thing, I don't know what you're talking about. As I said, there was tarmac in Agongere because before M7 came from the bush, there's no tarmac today. And I've talked about these things, and I use this as living examples. Because once in a while, when we come into these programs, which may be some of these things about textbooks, but for me, I want to play the politics of realities of the peoples. So we can talk infrastructure, including Northern Bypass. We can talk infrastructure. In the morning, I was thinking about this road called Kaguta. I don't know why there's a road called Kaguta. So I don't know who Kaguta is to deserve a road in this country. But whatever the case, the people chose their Kaguta road. That in Jesus' name is not in Agongera. So there's a Kaguta road, So if there's a Kaguta road tarmacked, why isn't Agongera road tarmacked? My road. That's all you say. Now, citizens will do that. I'll demand for that. Somebody will demand for it, Somebody in Agago will demand for what? That's fair. Let government then go ahead and respond. Okay. But then this other idea that those days buses did not travel from Kampala to Masaka no. In 1984, there was tarmac and there were buses from Kampala to Masaka, to Mbarara, to Kabale, to Katuna. And I traveled in them. They were there, and the roads were tarmacked up to Kabale. It was only Katuna Road which was being leveled for tarmacking. 1984, before these guys came from the bush. So these things must be relative. The issue is simply because there was no electricity the other day and then you bring electricity pool and put it down there and you don't provide for it. When are we going to be part of an organized nation state in which our comparisons with Rwanda or Kenya?
It's okay. Just comment on what you think about the message about our security. You've hinted that's the role of government to secure the people. But it looks like there are some impending threats. According to the United States. And this is not the first time that they speak things and they come to pass.
Indeed, that's quite worrying.
On that issue.
It's interesting, actually. I saw something, Comrade Which, very mildly, I think, someone from Defense Forces, I don't know if it's my good friend Felix, who said that they're taking it seriously. Yes, and if that's true, that's an important thing. It's the right thing to do. Because the previous two warnings, they were dismissed, and in fact, one of them that was dismissed, it came to pass, and obviously, I was very critical about that. So, quite clearly, on the basis of what Felix said, if true, that means therefore they're taking their necessary precautions. And if they're taking their necessary precautions, you can't blame them beyond that. The only thing for someone like me, who understands and appreciates some of these global issues, I mean all of us in this panel in fact, it'd be who are these terrorists? Where are the threats coming from? Whom have we offended again? From history, I know that we offended Rwanda. From history, I know we offended Congo. From history, we then went ahead. From history, we offended Somalia. And from history, we went to Central African Republics. And in many cases, and Congo already said, and several times from history, I know there was a once upon a time, there's some of these things that I still reserve. There's some Southern African nations where there was major offense by the NRM, except it did not come on the surface. And some of those things are neither here nor there in the past, where we caused, rather unsavory diplomatic incidents. So in this case, it's from Al-Shabaab. It's quite clearly understandable. I've been quite critical by how we ended up in Somalia and why. I still continuously argue that the Somali mission was not in our national interest. The Somali interest was in American interest. And so, in any case, we're now paying part of the price. But
the CDF is right to say we are demanding our money. The CDF, Mr. Moses.
But Mr. Moses is a very interesting guy, isn't he? Was that actually, I read that, was it true? Was that from his Twitter account?
Yes, he posted it.
He posted it. And they want money from America.
Yeah, over 200 billion.
I hope that 200 billion can come and fix the potholes that he promised us in Kampala. From the time the Muhoozi walked in the streets of Kampala and inconvenienced people in the streets of Kampala, none of those roads has been tarmacked. So, but you remember I told you that maybe unless you're going to use some cow dung, because cow dung is easier than some of these other things from
the NRM, sir. What do you think about that particular issue of the impending catastrophe? Is your government really serious about this?
Yes, but I want to comment about the Kampala roads. You had hinted or you had asked whether the roads are like this because they didn't vote for us. No, in 2019, contracts were signed and actually money released for these roads. Many of them, Sao Paulo Kagwa, Port Bell Road that is passing through Mid-Paka to Bugolobi. Yes, the other one through Business School. Which other one? Industrial areas, those roads in industrial areas. All these roads, contract were signed and money passed hands. We seem to be having a problem with monitoring and enforceability. And that's why I agree with him that sometimes the implementers on the ground are just sifting machines to make it look like they are working.
They're busy.
But these contracts were signed, flagged off, money exchange hands, and by now they should have been done.
Here's another loan we got around 2022.
The money,
Through the
thing
Lord
were
Mayor.
concluded. So for them, they keep saying they're changing this design. Changing which design? What did you put in the contract? So it is not true that the roads are bad because they didn't vote for us. The roads are bad if there's culpability on enforcement, on follow-up. But they were signed and money paid. And that is why they started the work. Otherwise, if they were not paid, they wouldn't have started. They started, they dug the roads and left it in a more mess than that. Otherwise, if we were working as normal by now, all those roads should be clean.
But Comrade Rich, I think, if you don't mind, I think that's part of the reason, the reason where Edgar's coming. That now, that's where government comes, because government is supervisor of local authorities. So where are the responsive ministers, in terms of Minister of Works, or your overall chairperson,
Because
to say, you guys, what's happening?
Like
Yes, I'm lamenting.
So that's the point.
I'm
really.
lamenting because I'm lamenting. In other words, I'm trying to check introvert inside me. What is wrong with this?
Okay.
How comes do we sign this contract? Money is paid and the work is not going on. In fact, according to the president, he thought he had cleaned his hands. Contracts were admitted, contracts were signed, money was paid. The president thought he had cleaned his hands. Within a short time, roads would be seen. When he turns back, doing other things, roads are not there. So that calls for...
And maybe last we also had SFC go to start constructing those roads or rehabilitate them. I don't know what happened to the rehabilitations.
Where was that?
No, I think
Who gave them the contract?
No, the ones the SFC did, the ones the SFC did was during the major activities which were taking place in Munyonyo. That is the non-aligned movement and the
Summit, G20,
G77. G77. Indeed, along major roads they did it, but that was just for the function. But the long roads, like Port Bell Road, Sao Paulo Kagwa, or 6th Street, 7th Street, all these ones, these were major contracts. Okay. So the SFC or whatever army engineers did just clean the areas which were to make sure that we have a facelift for the two major functions.
All right.
Now,
Sorry. Can I just help on that actually? An interesting thing, because Comrade Rich is a lawyer, because that's extremely important, because we also talk monies and budgets here. When it comes to some of this commissioning of these contracts, and when these contracts are being signed, usually it should be about time, specification, and money. And at every other stage, whichever of the two parties breaches, they're always usually legal, but most importantly, financial implications. So if there is actually a particular delay, unless not properly being monitored, there will be implications. So really for a business, meaning these contractors, it should not be in their interest to delay these processes unless somebody is being incompetent.
I think that's what he's also trying to say in the grand scheme of things. Their monitoring has been a bit weak here and there.
Okay. Now, I think I've finished about Kampala roads. Do I move to security now?
Please do.
Security is a concern for all of us. Our brothers and sisters, the Americans, UK and France, they have invested a lot of money in security to the extent that they have ability to detect indeed an attack. And that's why you said that, or I think the congressman said that in one of those warnings, it did occur.
Yes, indeed.
Or in many warnings, they do occur. Unless deliberate effort is done to avert it. So for them, they have invested a lot of money in security, especially in security technologies. They're able to monitor what is in the air. They're able to monitor all sorts of communications. So with that investment in security, we believe what they say.
Is there a deliberate effort on your side to address that concern?
It is. There's a deliberate effort, a concerted effort. We have even joint ventures with them. The Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force. That Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force is a joint, as you hear the name sounding, with friends and allies abroad, with their input, whether intelligence or technology and all that. So that Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force is in place, and that is one major vehicle that government uses to avert such things.
Okay.
And of course, a part of it is the guidance that could come in terms of how do you guide the ordinary citizen. But the ordinary citizen is just guided, but the bigger task is under joint, and that is how some threats don't come to pass. Because they are really threats, because our friends have invested in technology, as I said. They're able to hear even whispers in the air. Whispers in the air, whether you want to attack or what, they can pick it. And when they pick it for real. So there's Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force, which is a joint force for many stakeholders, including friends from abroad, and they always try to do their work. So we think they'll do it, but only that also, as citizens, we should be vigilant and listen to the guidance that they give.
All right, Charles, before we go for the break, what do you think about the U.S. warning? And you are a major in diplomatic studies, so this is really your area of expertise. What do you think about that?
Yeah, security is of interest in the nature of the work we do. One thing for sure is that we cannot ignore the fact that the current chief of police is an expert on terrorism. So we are in safe hands. Number two, like Major Wich has told you, the moment the Americans detect movement within terrorists, they will have known. However, they also work very closely with our people. The difference is that most of these alerts are not usually meant for us. They are for American citizens. So it is upon our government agencies to warn us. But by accident, we also benefit.
Someone was asking me.
Or as a by the way.
Someone commented on that message, but they were like, but does our government love us? Because you'll never hear.
They never warn us.
You'll hear the other ones.
Because one thing I've learned about...
But I thought you people said the brigadier won.
That's very funny.
Them to react and say we are okay, but after the message had come out.
One thing I've learned about Major, which is government, they keep information to themselves. Even when
Because they're about themselves.
things are going to happen, they will still keep quiet. Because I was very surprised, for instance, that the director of KCC knew that Chitez was going to collapse. In fact, even alerted the executive director. So the information was there. And that is the unfortunate part. I think it is also of importance that our security begins issuing alerts to citizens rather than for us waiting for the Americans. Because usually our security apparatus has the information. But they will wait for the Americans to talk. And then
When we say they're trying to abate the terrorism,
they begin responding. But usually
should be able to communicate.
However, the other strategic reasoning that has been provided by some figures within government is that these alerts, these regular alerts, scare off investors and tourists. So it is of interest to government to conceal some of this information and
make money at our expenses.
Work in the shadows to contain the threats rather than alarm the population and then terrorists run away and investors go away. So I think that is why they always keep quiet.
All right, no problem. In a minute, sir, if you can use 1 minute.
No, I just want to say, really, I keep my time. One is that the Americans using their technology, they do communicate to us now. So it's not true that they just inform their citizens. No, they communicate to us. Then they inform their citizens. So it is us now to see what to do with the communication. But the other thing is that government does a lot of awareness. You have seen posters in police stations everywhere, showing even articles, don't touch this, don't do this, avoid abandoned bags out. These posters run time and again, and sometimes on TV, depending on the level of threats. So it is not true that government doesn't alert people and sleep. They make announcement on the radio, we make announcement on the TV, we draw posters that are pinned all over the walls. So that is my comment.
Okay. 2 minutes to the top of the hour of 8. Let's go for a short commercial break. When we come back in the final hour of this show, we talk everything Parliament, mainly 2 issues. The proposed amendment for the Parliament Administration Act that will give power to all opposition political parties to vote for the leader of opposition. Then the parliamentary regional sittings. Are we politicking, or we're actually concerned about the issues in these of the people in these particular regions of the country? Remember, streaming live on Facebook, but also on YouTube. So we are at Digitalk TV. We are the Alternative Uganda. Sending more of your messages and questions, concerns. I'll be reading them as we continue with the program. My name is Edgar. I'm still with Honorable Cheno, Kazora, Charles, and of course Honorable Awich Pola from the NRM. Let's go for a break.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machinde, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m., Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besige every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Thank you for watching the program, ladies and gentlemen. We are into the second hour and the final hour of this show. This hour is predominantly going to be we're going to be talking about mainly what is happening in Parliament. With you, Honorable Cheno. And I want us to first talk about Honorable Richard Lumu'S proposed amendment. This gentleman is the Member of Parliament from Itiana South, and he proposes that from this time we should be able to, for the members of Parliament for opposition should be able to vote for their leader and their chief whip. And he says it's not really okay for the shadow government, headed by maybe the shadow president, to be able to elect the leader of opposition. What is your thought on this particular idea?
The timing is as suspect as is the timing of this messy suggestion that legislators at our expenses should go and see the beautiful Karuma Falls and have the privilege to go and see how the resilient people of northern Uganda have managed to survive the war of terror in northern Uganda and concentration camps, and that now come possibly the next elections, they can be persuaded to continue playing yes to Mr. M7 and his regime. I am quite disappointed that legislators can make this one of the basis of contestation. In any case, actually, if there was any proposals that I thought was likely to reach near, was the one for constitution amendments on political systems, meaning whether we continue with the hybrid messy stuff that the M7 is put there for blocking or voting, and with the directive, yes, and then returning to the traditional parliamentary system. One of the things that we've had as a problem in this country is that people don't dissect issues. People always look for symptoms, and people always want to solve problems through shortcuts. The NRA guys, after they lost and they got rejected by people in 1980, they thought they would go to the bush. When they came to power, fearing political parties, they thought they could ban parties and then create a thing called movement thing. Many people followed, and now some of the people who are now forming political parties, left, right, and center, are people who bought into that idea. So now they're trying to find a way of recreating political parties without coming to the fact that, look, they made a messy mistake. They demonized UPC for nothing, demonized DP for nothing. And so here, quite clearly, if you're an average, sensible parliamentarian, and a parliamentarian who goes on to benchmark, and a parliamentarian who I was with the young deputy speaker, who's a fantastic guy, by the way, at Ayeba the other day, in some of these public conversations. And so therefore, you're talking quality of legislators, quality of men and women who choose that they want to go and represent you and then go ahead and convince an average constituent. So Lumu should be able to have an idea what happens in Parliament, what happens in Kenyan Parliament, what happens in Rwandan Parliament, or Congolese Parliament, what happens in global parliaments, what happens in the mouth of parliaments, meaning Britain. So in any case, so therefore, the office of leader of opposition in a parliamentary system would normally have been a position that would go to the leader of the largest political party, merely. So in any case, if I were a serving member of parliament and UPC gets what I hope we do with my leadership in the next 12 months, that we become the largest political party away from NRM, if not the largest, and therefore forming government. So suppose we became the largest opposition party, which is basically my aspiration anyway, that we become the largest political party following onto NRM. I should be automatically the leader of opposition, in parliament, particularly in the sense that I've been elected. Because of the manner in which FDC and NUP have found themselves, and partly because of this constitutional thing that you cannot run for parliament and at the same time run for president, these leaders are compelled to be that. So basically that's the only mere technicality. So for that, therefore, the anomaly. But in any case, if the leader of the opposition slot is for the leading opposition political party, why it then becomes an issue that members of other political parties are complaining about the conduct of the manner in which the leader of opposition is.
Do you think we have
The self-interest. That's why I started with it. As I said, people are learning to democracy. We have institutional challenges. We've got personality issues. We've got people who don't know what democracy is all about. So in any case, if you have an issue with Kyagulanyi, then you find a shortcut to deal with him. If you find a problem with the Senyon, you find a way of wanting to deal with him. If you have an issue with maybe Amoria to Besige, you find a way of dealing with it. Okay. In any case, at the moment, if the proposal is to go, NUP has the largest members in the House. Clearly, their candidate will almost certainly win. But of course, it could be argued that...
Isn't this supposed to be nationalistic in all the...
No, but quite clearly the position... The opposition, in a way, the leader of opposition political party is the leader that comes from the largest political party in opposition, and who then counters and shadows the prime minister. Who's appointed by the president. So are we now saying that we go and then we elect all other political parties elect their leader of opposition, which is a fair point.
Let's ask this.
And then do we then go ahead and say Nyabanja should be elected by members of the NRA?
Charles, what do you think? Because that's what I was going to ask you. And maybe to add on, do you think this opposition really wants to take power? When you look at the actions that they're doing, the bickering, looking for who's going to lead the opposition, really, do you think these people want to take power, as you answer his question as well?
To answer you straight away, I'll tell you that there is no opposition. Opposition in Uganda is merely an extension of NRM.
I am opposition.
That is subject to debate.
No, I am opposition.
Now, because you come from a party which is in alliance with NRM.
UPC is not in alliance. Jim Akena and Beta Mongi and Cheng, who came from Canada, are in a collusion with Mr. M7.
But in principle, in my view, the framers of that law, because the law did not allow the second person, that is, in our case, like for instance, Kyagulanyi, not to get into parliament. So the law allows him to delegate his powers and be represented in the parliament. So in the principle, Kyagulanyi is in the parliament as Senyonyi.
Yes.
Delegated powers. Now, when you say you want to elect, it means you are subjecting Kyagulanyi to 2 elections on the same thing. His powers are being trimmed, but under another election, which is not subjected to the president. Because we could also as well say, let us also elect the leader of government business.
Yeah.
Because in principle, this person represents the president in the House. They are just delegated powers. You understand? But where does this problem start? And why are we here? Why have we reached that level that even a law should be enacted? It is NUP. There are issues in NUP, in the administration of that party. There are no structures, systems don't work. People just sleep in their bed and work out how the party should run. You get it? They even, I'm now told they have even already identified people for 2026. This one goes here.
This constituents, this one is not going to come back.
A political party is a public entity. And that is why NUP is even funded by the taxpayer, that it should even be audited. Now, they don't only audit the resources, but also the actions. Me, to date, I'm confused why Major Awichi's government has allowed NUP to keep operating. No. The people in charge of the affairs of NUP are running that party illegally. But they can't be touched. I'm telling you, you can't touch them. You can't. They have,
they don't even have a
state protection. They can't be touched. Some of them would be in Wizira right away.
That's a serious claim.
They already have some NUP members in Wizira, sir.
No, I'm really very serious. How do you spend public resources, yet you're operating the party illegally?
Please
we should be serious.
Qualify.
Should be serious.
Qualify your illegality.
NUP went and manufactured some constitution from somewhere. Even went and smuggled it into electoral commission. These people were looking on. They kept quiet.
What do you mean smuggle?
Are you following what is happening in NUP?
Yes. Remember what
Do you know that today?
How they even changed the name, how they got in possession, we all saw the entire process. Even the gentleman who was the former leader of NUP before it became NUP came out to say that he was coerced to say the things he was saying. So, do you want...
Which guy? You are talking of Chebarama?
Exactly.
I leave that one because he was their agent. Now, my focus is on the constitution because every organization is run by its laws, isn't it? You sit down and agree. Now, if you have no constitution,
who says there is no constitution?
Or you have manufactured a constitution illegally.
What makes a constitution legal?
The constitution that is registered in the Electoral Commission,
yes,
is the constitution of NURP. That is what is known there. All of a sudden, that one disappears. Rubongoya brings a new constitution, which I'm told now, Electoral Commission, eventually they have agreed to discard. You imagine all these things happening under the watchful eye of government.
Okay, as you conclude on that issue.
Now, the mismanagement of NUP has culminated into this confusion in the parliament. That is why some actors from other political parties are saying, look, I think we should take charge of our process in the parliament. We don't want your confusion in the parliament. But in principle, the fact is the leader of opposition should be the majority opposition party.
Lastly, we are entering 2026. It's about the political season. Aren't you giving Mr. Museveni an open road? Because literally, the people who are supposed to fight Museveni are looking so disorganized that they are worst.
You always ask that question. And me, I always get confused why you even ask it. I have told you there is no opposition. People come in to fill positions.
Okay, no problem.
Yes? So if you had this feeling that they are there to challenge President M7, that is, it is a joke.
I think
There is
we
no
have accepted the
genuine challenger to take on President M7.
Okay.
People are just looking for offices.
Amongst those others, because I am here. I am here with a number of people that I know in UPC. But anyway.
What's your comment on what is happening in the National Unity Platform and the opposition generally? And do you think this is going to be a landslide on your side as the NRM?
It won't be.
Well, I was still interested in a question that you have not asked me, especially the question you asked, because this is more an institutional framework. You are asking what is the status of this impending proposal to have a leader of opposition elected. I think the proposal is not only to have the opposition elect their leaders, but the entire plenary of parliament to elect a leader of opposition. Meaning, therefore, NRM will determine who should
Yes.
be. Because
Okay,
if you
is that
say,
so?
Yes,
Wow,
because
okay.
if you say it is opposition to elect, it's a waste of time because the leading majority will win. So why would you waste time? Because it would still be if a NUP is the majority and then the NUP secretariat will whip their members to vote for their no. Yes, so it would. So I think now the proposal is that the entire parliament determines. That is the proposal. No, so it is now us to interrogate. Is it a good proposal? Is it a bad proposal? I want to say, first of all, that law is not cast on stones. Even the Constitution. When you are making a law, you think you have done a very nice job. But when you put it in operation, you see cracks. That's why even the Constitution has provision for amendment. So similar thing with this law, which provides for the leader of opposition to be appointed by the party. Therefore, we can give concession and say, yes, laws are not casted on stones. At any time, it should be amended. So why not amend this one as it is? The other thing I wanted to say is that a law comes to address a mischief. Normally, for a law to come up, there's a disease it is curing. And maybe it puts in another word. So, what mischief are we really curing? Are we misdiagnosing the mischief, or actually there's no mischief? We are trying to cure a non-existent mischief. In other words, the status quo is good enough. So these are questions we have to ask ourselves. But I'd like to say also that part of where the mischief is coming from is that we really have a lot of multiplicity of opposition. Unlike in America, where you have the conservative, Democrats and Republicans, or in UK you have the conservative and the Labour. Those are main parties which are visible. But here we have a lot of multiplicity of opposition, and that therefore does not make us take the traditional way of saying majority take it. So this multiplicity is unique. You have FDC with a reasonable number. You have UPC with a reasonable number. You have this with a reasonable number. So to take the traditional way that let the majority take would actually be an outright dictatorship of the majority. You can say that is what democracy, but somebody will question. So that element of multiplicity of opposition is generating this debate. Also, we should take from the back of our mind that we also have some permitting element of individual merit. It keeps coming up in our mind. Even in NRM, we still have members of the party who still think actually in individual merit. So it becomes difficult to even observe party discipline. So you need a lot of whip. And this could mean the growth of our democracy. On the one hand, you think you are multi-party. On the other hand, your mind is thinking of individual merit. And now when you couple it up with the multiplicity of opposition, it now brings this debate. Anyhow, we are still at the debate status. You never know the direction it will take. For example, if some minds come up and say, like you were saying, that the leader of opposition is doing the work of government, say chief whip, or a prime minister, leader of government business, why don't we elect also? Let us elect. So we are yet to wait and see the shape the debate will take.
In your experience and mind, do you think there is a valid point for such an amendment in the Constitution according to what is happening?
I think it is now, because on the multiplicity of opposition system, you have opposition not as one opposition, but opposition as many opposition. So this multiplicity in opposition parties, which is not one, like you have the Labour Party and the Conservative, you have the Republican, the Democrat. This multiplicity now gives the new dimension on the choice of leader of opposition, which is unprecedented in other democracies.
It divides the opposition more, which gives you a higher ground.
Which opposition?
It doesn't, because it doesn't. It's ideally
because they are more divided, and it's yours to take.
Ideally, it's supposed to have an agreeable person. For example, there's a common talk that the previous Mpuga was a more agreeable, consensus-building opposition leader. And there's some talk that Senyonyi is more confrontational and combative. So the idea here is that, yes, let the opposition do their things, but can we have an agreeable person who can do that task? And if we, for example, had a single opposition, this thinking, in my opinion, would have come. So this element, these sentiments is coming up to me, in my opinion, because of the multiplicity. So the multiplicity, first of all, does not make come out a one united opposition. So it makes a big multiplicity opposition, and they are fighting. Remember, the parliamentary philosophy is that parliament can do anything. In the past, they said parliament can do anything except changing a man into a woman. In other words, they have the mandate to make any law. And as I said, laws are not cast on stones. Laws come up at a particular time to see to address a mischief. Even this one, even if we pass it now, that the leader of opposition will be elected, it won't be there forever, maybe, unless the status quo still sees that it's a good thing to operate. It may operate for some years. It will be changed to something else, because laws are not hard and frozen.
Okay, lastly, it looks like your political party or the government that you represent has divided and has intentionally caused a lot of controversy in the opposition. We've heard of some money that has been given to some of the political parties. We are hearing people here saying they're openly working with your government. Are you really serious about a multi-party dispensation in this country? Or it's just a facade like many people?
We are actually more serious than UPC government was. For example,
but you're giving people positions.
For example, in the UPC government that it was, to show you how unserious they were with opposition, you would stand in Nyabushozi on NRM ticket. When you reach Kampala, you cross the floor. Now, because of the commitment on seriousness, they said, you are not going to stand in Nyabushozi because it is NRM. Win, come and cross here. If you want to cross, lose your seat. That is one ground you should assess us how serious we are about multi-party. Stand to your party. Don't know
your leader said there will not be any opposition.
Yes, I can answer
and
that.
they keep fishing.
So that is one element to show you we are serious about it.
Them.
The other thing is that the methods of working with other parties exist in all democracies, that you can sign an agreement to work with any other party you like. Even NUP can sign to work with DP, or DP can, and it has happened before. And in fact, that's what they do in opposition. So how comes the opposition agreed to work together to oppose us, and you don't want one of them who willingly wants to work with us, you don't want. So it is okay for them to unite and oppose, but it is not okay for one to come to us. That happens in democracy.
Yes.
That happens in democracy. So about President Museveni declaring that there won't be opposition anymore, for him he was viewing that if we continue our mass line and provide services provision, people will ultimately see NRM as the only viable option. That's what he meant. And we're working towards that, towards the mass line. Mass health care, through immunization. We have killed the 7 killer diseases. Remember that now you walk, you don't get any child of 15 years who has polio. Do you have it in your village?
No.
Do you have polio in your village? No.
But that's not why he's laughing. Look.
Then we have mass education.
Every time we talk
have
about
mass
issues that are affecting us now, you remind Ugandans that they were immunized, they wouldn't be alive.
You see, when we fail,
Yes, sir.
when we fail, you loud it up.
Exactly.
When we succeed, you say it is God.
Honorable
Is
Chair,
that being fair?
let me come
That
to
you,
Honorable Chair now.
you should
Thank
be
you so
fair,
much,
that
sir.
you should both appreciate our success and our failure,
Alright.
not only loud the failure.
27 minutes past 8 p.m. I am still with the candid gentleman and we're talking about what is happening in the country. Sir, I want us to cross over, but you're going to react to what he said. But also add in this element of the regional parliamentary sittings. A case study that we have for now is Gulu. Some of the things that I've seen in Gulu, I've seen the speaker give out money, some donations to some individuals. I've seen some bishops receiving some money. I've seen some individuals and groups of people.
Was the money to send to Jesus?
In the market, she gave around 15 million to that circle. And I thought we were going to, for parliamentary sittings, talk about these issues. What are we doing in Gulu and these regions?
No, of course, we are campaigning really to continue blindfolding the people, particularly the people of the North. We are pacifying the North officially. But I must say that, just briefly, that Comrade Which was close to right when he was talking about the multiplicity of political parties.
I always try to be right, as always.
Not always, you know. I was extraordinarily surprised that you're nearly right, because you're actually not. That, for argument's sake,
Yes, sir.
if we had a parliament with 150 opposition members, and that 5 political parties have fit that bill, and that perhaps the largest opposition party has got, say, 50 for argument's sake, and that then they provide the leader of opposition, it's an arguable case to make that there are 100 members from other political parties who are the majority, who are not necessarily representative of the voices of the official opposition. But I think I was telling another program the other day that that is where leadership would emerge, where if that leading opposition party was UPC, I would expect that the discussions that take place, collective levels of opposition, would provide the leadership so that would be able to engage together. So meaning that most of the key debates in the assembly would try to be as representative and as consultative as possible. Ideally, that's what should happen in any case. And so if then in the event that was the case, you could say that, well, if elections do take place, that the other suspects can decide that the 100 of them want to beat the larger opposition with 50 members, and so they can technically win. But in a way, as I said, that's the problem with the experimenting of democracy in Uganda. I think I'm just praying that sooner rather than later, there is a national consensus in which there's an alternative government that emerges in this country that builds a critical number, a critical masses, creates an enabling environment in which there is a genuine opposition political parties and governing political party that does not see the opposition as enemies or opponents who seek to suppress them and seek to buy them and seek to confuse them. Some of the extraordinary observations being made by Charles, which I know some of them are allegations and claims that I've had, some of which are not particularly necessarily untrue. But then coming to the question of the regional seating. As I said, it's actually quite insulting. You know, it's estimated that the sitting cost nearly 5 billion Uganda shillings. I was on another program the other day with a senior legislator who was linked to the Budget Committee Plus, and he was suggesting that the 5 billion was a creation of you guys in the fourth estate, but that the figures could be just under 4 billion. And I'm saying that it does not make it better. In any case, Mr. Museveni has abused Ugandan doctors and their families and all young people with aspirations who want to seek to become medical doctors to rescue our lives and to make sure that they kill polio on behalf of Comrade Awich. And that the budget to keep the interns, Charles, is it 18 billion required?
Yes.
And Mr. Museveni has told them that they should stop being silly. There's no money, they should continue. But Mr. Museveni and his team waste 5 billion to go and pacify themselves and their names in the name of the Ugandans using our money. And Mr. Museveni gives 500 billion Uganda shillings to a dubious foreign construction company called Roko under circumstances that cannot be explained by anybody. Mr. Museveni gives 300 billion to Atiak Sugar, a dubious foreign company with a dubious alleged investor whose understanding and association with the interests of the Republic of Uganda, I have no clue. And you can go to Loboa and on and on and on. So it is a terrible thing. Now
to what extent are you to look at the challenges of the people in those areas and address them?
I'm actually coming to that. By the way, Tayebwa the other day made a very interesting, persuasive argument for regional seating. I suggest maybe he should become the spokesperson for Parliament. You know, fair enough, but it was not convincing enough. You do not need to go to sit in Gulu in order to know what's happening in Atiak, what's happening in Agago, what's happening in Karuma, what happened in Burlonyo or Barlonyo. You don't have to do that in order to know that West Niles needs electricity. We shouted and the grid went there the other day, but Pakwach Bridge looks like still an abandoned homestead. You don't need that. And you don't need to go and sit in Gulu in order to know that the young children down there in a post-conflict situation need education, need investment in their health, need actual investment in much more infrastructure. You don't need to do that. And in any case, anyway, the Assembly has been sitting at Kampala since independence. And we talk about Nigeria Road, and we talk about my car being broken last night. It's a leg because of chuku kind of stuff. And we talk about the absence of... Does Parliament need to go and sit in Barara in order for them to address some of the issues to do with the cattle dips and cattle ranches that UPC built, but they failed to maintain, unless if you're one of those people who've stolen money from the government and then you boast about having 500 herds of cattle. It doesn't, you do not need to do that. And in any case, as you rightly say, is it surely really the role of a speaker to become an aid worker, to give donations and grants to people in a market? Is that the role of a Speaker of Parliament? It's absolutely not. So no, this thing is being done deliberately because Parliament had become very, very unpopular because in part of some of the conversations we had, the corruption around the corruption, the issue of the commissioners, then the issue of the fight between Mr. Museveni and parliamentarians, he left them dry. And then, of course, that other battle that involved, Parliament failing. In fact, they had made the effort, actually, to their credit, to challenge Mr. Museveni's allocations, and then he taunted them and still got his way with Atiak and Roko money. Parliament had actually sought to...
Recently, when he was in Bukedia, he informed the country that this is the best parliament he has worked with.
Because he's
at a time when everybody is ridiculing and scorning this.
And he had ridiculed and scorned it 4 weeks earlier. Mr. Museveni is a comedian. He's just riding you guys. He's been riding you guys since Luweru. And you guys clap. And I've been telling you guys, Mr. Museveni is a comedian, and that's what he's doing. But in any case, he's on the steering wheel and is doing it. No. So to their credit, therefore, taking this thing to Gulu cleanses and pacifies this thing. Number one, taking this thing to Gulu makes poor, miserable Choli children who were born in concentration camps and have not known anything but, but misery and poverty, that, oh, you at last basically care for them and care about them. So it helps, as I said, the image of the assembly, and it helps the image of the NRM. And finally, it actually helps the image of NRM. And remember, the election is next year. So really, actually, the going of parliament is a political ploy that whoever plotted the program, has done it and is doing it for the credit of NRA, but it's not a worthy thing. It's an insult to Ugandans. Yes.
What do you think about the parliamentary regional sittings? He talks about being a political, they are politicians, they're trying to get, get kind of sympathy or support from the people in the northern region. But I want you also to comment on how the speaker has been dishing out money there. I think in just a day I saw her making around donations of 140 million. And my question is, have we gone to discuss the issues, or we're just going for camera and people to see us? And politics, as he's also asserting.
Our parliament, this particular parliament, has become like a chimeza. People
come together
from the street, and they have some organized discussion on politics. Basically, that is what our parliament has become. And by the time 7 is done with them, most of them will have become insane. I can tell you. By the time M7 is done with this parliament,
how so?
Most of them will have become insane. And most of them will have become fugitives. You just watch the space. Some of them will even run to exile.
The people is saying
this
that
parliament,
the best parliament to work with.
Maybe if you don't know M7, it's very well. You remember somebody called Jennifer Musi?
I remember her.
Where is she? Where is she now?
The daughter.
Do you know the favor she had?
Great in Kampala,
No, tell us.
You guys, these people, some of them will have become fugitives after 2026. You just watch the space. Because what would be the intention to even begin? Of course, our parliament has had a tainted image, I think, since they sat. Actually, since Olanya passed on, this parliament has had a very tainted image. It is no longer worth its name. So they try to do this and that to regain their image. Unfortunately, it's impossible. But they are playing in President M7's hands. At the end of the day, he will have achieved his agenda. But some of them, if they don't run into exile, they will go to Rizia.
Comment on the idea itself of these regional parliamentary sittings.
I've told you since day one, I've never approved those regional sittings. Of what importance? If Parliament is supposed to be a people's institution, and at the entrance of Parliament here in Kampala, there's a whole barracks surrounding that Parliament. It's a barracks.
That's a but let's continue.
No, it is.
But I've been going there.
Haven't you been?
There's a time when they couldn't to enter.
Structure, battalion is 1,000 soldiers. Is that
You're saying a barracks, no?
A barracks.
barracks would even have
Because I
3
also don't
battalions.
Even when you have your national ID and can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are the one, getting inside that parliament might be very difficult.
Because of what has been happening.
What is it? What is it?
Protests.
And so,
You may want to disorganize
Uh,
the August House.
But you are saying it is a
In fact,
people's
even the youth
institution.
parliament was supposed to be there, but they
So
didn't
why waste
present us.
time going to sit in a Masaka, go to sit in a Guru? Why waste people's
To
time?
hear the problems of the
Which
people in
problems?
Masaka.
The people, you don't want to access the premises. Me, I've told you during second time, Right Honorable Edward II, everybody would go to the gallery, listen to the debates, get out. As long as you had your ID. In fact, you would leave your phone with the police officers just next to the gallery. You go up, listen to the debates. When you are coming out, you pick your phone and go. It was as simple as that. So, what is inside there that
These days,
and you are saying that you want people to love you, to like you? They cannot. They can't. I've told you there is a whole military barracks surrounding that institution there. I've told you I've gone to Mbuya several times. But
There are less guards at the gate.
actually, you might even enter as long as you can identify yourself with your national ID. And people, they let you go. You go up to even CDF's office. Do what you are supposed to do, you get out. My assumption is that you are supposed to have more soldiers there, mean-looking, scary than even here at Parliament. Because these are people. You ask yourself, why does a member of Parliament who has just been elected by people all of a sudden get guards? What are you fearing? If you were indeed elected, what are you fearing from your people?
Some members have refused or have boycotted those regional parliamentary sittings. Do you think this is the best idea?
Of course, Senyonyi, because you also have to understand Senyonyi's assertion. Senyonyi has been sidelined in the administration of Parliament. They don't consult him. So at times he gets information via rumors, and that is why he rightly objects to some of these things.
Is that the best idea? One would say you can disagree, but go on the plenary, go on the floor of Parliament, and let it be on record that you disagreed with that regional parliamentary sitting.
But he did.
Or you don't agree with
he
that.
did. They even sat in the shadow cabinet and resolved not to go to.
That's what I'm saying. Is that the best option? Why wouldn't you just air out your views on that particular platform? Let it be on record that on this and this date, the leader of opposition refused, but this and this happened.
You know, Senyonyi is supposed to be part of the business committee that generates and dictates the agenda of Parliament. I'm told he doesn't sit in that business committee. I don't know whether it is true or not. But the fact is, he is right not to associate with the schemes in
immature politics.
Which immaturity?
Why would say you stand your ground at least and talk about the issue
Which
straight to
immaturity?
the face? Why are you just running away from the issue?
Even if it were me, would I associate with that scheming in Parliament? I wouldn't. Senyonyi is going to
So
come.
you would rather fight in
Let
the
me
cameras
tell you.
like here?
Let me tell you.
Because that looks like politics of cameras.
You go and look for a record of those members of Parliament that went to Guru. I want you to compare with the number of votes they will have got. You compare them with the Senyonyi. Senyonyi is going to come back with about 90%. That one I can bet. Why? Because those are sentiments of the people he represents.
No problem.
So it is not just posturing.
Let me come to Honorable Wich. Honorable Wich, what's your take on these regional parliamentary sittings? You've heard what these gentlemen have talked about. They mainly hinted on a lot of money being spent, then politicking, it's not really, you can address the problems of the people in these regions here at Kampala. What is the good thing about this?
First of all, I want to make a clear disclaimer that Parliament is a legislative arm of government. There's the executive and there's the judiciary. So these three arms operate independently.
So they say.
So their decision is not influenced by government, or their decision is not influenced by NRM.
Hypothetically, that is how.
So I like to say, and to this extent, you wouldn't even be surprised if at some point the party or the executive says, no, it wasn't our decision, it was purely legislative decision, because they are independent body. So I like to say that. Now, for me, and therefore, if the party has no say, then this is my opinion, because their decision is not a party decision. So this is my position. So if tomorrow the Secretary General says his opinion, then that is his opinion, because I presume that that is not a party activity. A legislator is an independent arm of government. From that, therefore, I would like to examine this in one or two aspects. One, we should know from the nature of the order paper. Order paper is agenda of a sitting. Is this order paper national in nature? As order paper now reduced to regional items, then we can see. I saw one of the things that was, I don't know whether it was tabled and discussed, but there was a proposal, a motion to thank the president for pacifying the North, which is a right locus. Personally, I want the president to be thanked. He's my party chairman. He has done a lot and continues to do a lot. That is okay. But somebody would argue that a similar resolution was passed in Kampala sometime to thank the president. So if we wanted to thank him, wouldn't we thank him in Kampala? But since it is northern and customized that, maybe that is it. So a surgery on the order paper would do us a good job to know that. The other thing I want to comment is that there's a big school of thought which thinks that is a financial scam to get money. For example, some people were asking Parliament to come out clear that if they sit in Kampala, do they further, and if they sit in Kampala, compared to if they sit in Gulu, do they get per diem like somebody working out of normal duty station? If they get per diem, that would mean, therefore, if I want to create money for members of Parliament, I create a project like that. Let's go and sit away so that you create per diem. If you sit for 3 days, even if you come back with 6 million, especially the talk that we hear that the MP are cash-strapped, that would mean that they earn something. Apart from this per diem, it would also make us examine, how about service provision? Wouldn't we think that the people who offer services, for example, a transport of a coaster to Gulu, if it was going to cost 500,000 shillings, when somebody put it at 800 or even 1 million, and similar services. Or even the speaker has, I think now, a donation fund. If I go to Gulu, I'm spending from a donation fund. If I get $1 billion and I know that I am going to Gulu for donation, then I would also be seen to be spending from my donation fund, while others I put it somewhere. So we need to come out of the pecuniary interest. Is there no pecuniary interest in this? And to that extent, somebody should have come out clearly to explain a breakdown on the 5 billion, the alleged 5 billion. I am hearing others are saying it is not actually 5 billion. But whatever the amount, a clear breakdown should come out so that the public knows that even this money, there is no hidden pecuniary interest.
Before we talk about the pecuniary interest, sir, is there a need for this Parliament to go to northern region, to go to western region, to go to eastern region? Is there a need? Do we have a reason?
I thought maybe my approach, you're not picking it quickly, but I thought my approach is coming to that. Let me try. I hope you'll be with me. So if you fish out the pecuniary interest, then, and you have seen the order paper, then that is when you will clearly know that indeed this is an interest of the interest of regional. Before I take leave of the pecuniary interest, the idea of per diem, if there, because we need it clarified, I would give it to example of a headmaster who said he can't be poor. Headmaster, they asked him why. He said, since I'm the headmaster, when I see I don't have money, I'll start a project to transfer this window to here and take the door there. In the process, I create activity, I get something. So in the same breath, therefore, if you have found, if I had an independent legislature and I found that my MPs are poor, I create regional seating, create per diem because you're working out of station, and give money. Now, if we do by elimination pecuniary interest, seeing the order of the order paper, we can therefore reach at a conclusion that indeed the members of parliament are acting in good faith. If they are acting in good faith, therefore, how different would a regional sitting be? Is it okay, fine, they're acting in good faith, then they would be saying, yes, we're acting in good faith, no pecuniary interest. We genuinely think that sitting here is coming nearer to the people. Then you'll have to battle and dispel the feeling that even those issues, you can't do it at the center. The other aspect is, now we have had a first sitting. It would do Uganda a great good if we now do an audit point of view. The precedent set, have we achieved from the school of thought of proposers of having regional? What are they achieved? Others have seen people saying, you know, when you go to a region, electricity is put, like the lights, all the lights in Gulu were put so they benefit, but that is only Gulu. You're not talking of Agago, you're not talking of Lamore. Then others were saying the economy money was left there in the hands of the people, the hotels and all that. Others are arguing like that. So all in all,
yes,
to answer your question with certainty, a yes or no, whether there's need for the regional, you can only reach that answer when you eliminate all these other aspects and do a surgery then on the order paper itself. And then it is also timely that after this first sitting, an independent monitoring thing could do. How many laws or resolutions did we actually pass that had we not been in Gulu, we wouldn't have passed? Or how many laws and resolutions did we pass that by being in Gulu, it became more articulate and more clear, and therefore it justifies? If there is no law or resolution that is missed by being in Kampala, that is much more articulated in the regional sitting, then we wouldn't use the West Delta.
We have 5 minutes. Give us your parting shots because I may not come back to you.
My parting shot to Ugandans is that the NRM has given the freedom of speech, and we always thank private citizens who have taken initiative to organize one like this. And let you not be deceived that there is no freedom of speech. We can talk here with my congressman, and we will go and sleep soundly. On the issue of security, we should take it seriously, follow the guidance that is there, so that we don't get hurt. And then the other thing is that I assure Ugandans that laws are not permanent. So when a proposal is made, we should all discuss in good faith and know what we can do. Because even if you pass a law like this, it won't be there for 50 years. It will at one time be amended anyway. Then finally is that we call on correct stakeholders to do evaluation on the Gulu sitting so that it gives a guidance on which way forward in as far as regional sitting is concerned.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Let's all agree that we have freedom of speech, but the freedom after speech is the
guaranteed.
It's not yet guaranteed, sir.
That is also
There is no freedom of speech.
It should be there, but after you make that speech...
Because it depends on how you want to. If you are paying a journalist, by the way, media organizations are owned by NRM people. They are not paying workers and pastors. They are not paying. So that you cannot tell me there is a media freedom if you're not paying your workers.
You guys are fighting shots, sir.
I thought if you are paying, you are bribing. I thought if you are paying, you are bribing.
No, because this is a service. I went to school. So
if you are if we were paying, we would be bribing you. So by not paying you, you are free.
NRM has made it deliberate
there's no
not to empower journalists, not to empower media, so that it can be manipulated in their favor. So that is, there is no media freedom in that regard. My parting shots, of course, is that it is just one. I call upon President M7 to not seek another term of office in 2026, so that our generation can take charge of this country, because so many things are going wrong. We have so many reasons to justify that. So
that is the mandate of NRM.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kazova. Honorable Cheno, your parting shot, sir.
The idea that freedom of speech is some gift is not true. It's a basic, one of the basic fundamental rights and freedoms of the citizen of an independent nation state. We've had it since independence. We had some interruptions under Idi Amin, and for 20 years under NRA there was no freedom of speech. In any case, for 20 years under NRA, I would not be able to sit here putting on my t-shirt until we defeated NRA in court in 2004. I started from about 2005. So no, this is not a gift. It's something that took many of us a lifetime. Many of us wasted half of our lifetimes in exile, and many people got lost, and many people spent decades in concentration camps, including in northern Uganda, because of this freedom thing. So we really need to put in context.
In just a minute, because there's just a question that has just popped up right now. This gentleman says, while attending a function at Dr. Diana Atuine's home in Luwero, the president said on his ex-handle that UPC killed 300,000 people for supporting NRA. Records say that over 800,000 people were killed. As a former rebel, can Major Awich tell us who killed the 500,000? If Mr. Museveni confesses that UPC is responsible for only 300,000 lives. Also, Mr. Ocheno, is it true UPC killed the 300K as Mr. Museveni states? Thanks for the show.
It's a nonsense from Mr. Museveni, and I thought Mr. Museveni has brought this one to a rest. He knows a lie that is paraded, a lie that he used in Luwero. It's a lie that he used for brutalizing the people in Luwero. To you as an answer, in 2005, I called a press conference at Uganda House in Kampala, for which I was asking for us to investigate Luwero War. I've been asking that for the people who died in Luwero from February 1981 to, in fact, when these guys came from the bush in January 1986. We want to know how many NRA killed. We want to know how many of those skulls belong to NRA. And in any case, yes, let's assign the number of skulls that belong to the UPC government, not UPC government in Luwero. And for me, I'll take responsibility on behalf of the Uganda People's Congress.
Okay, sir.
In any case, yes, I think we need to hold the people who massacred our people in Luwero.
Because of time, we shall leave it there.
Even if it's one death, it's one death too many.
Okay, it's exactly 9 p.m. Thank you so much for watching.
Because of
time, because this needs a lot of time.
I will answer
and he will answer that particular question. Or I'll ask him privately to see what he will tell me. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It was an honor having you watching us for the show. So I honor each man, woman, and child who has been watching us from the time we started up to now. My name is Edgar Matthew Karahanga. This is Digitalk TV. You can go back and watch this video. On YouTube, it's there. There is no buffering. On Facebook, we are still using VPNs here and there to try to maneuver the communication. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and God bless Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.